The world always want best political system. But every state build their political system based on their interest. Some adopt kingship, some adopt democracy. Some enforce dictatorship. Let's find which political system of the world is responsible for the current scenario. With Waqas Abdullah.
Hi, I am Waqas Abdullah, and today the topic of our discussion is the political system of the world. In this program, we aim to shed light on the diverse array of the political system that shed light our world, from democracies to dictatorship. Get ready to embark on a journey of discovery as we take a deep dive into the fascinating and often complex world of politics, exploring the diverse range of the political system that exist across the globe.
Today in this discussion, joining us from the Ukraine, Constantine. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting.
And the second guest joining us from the America, Jason. Thank you very much, Jason, for joining.
Greetings from Michigan. Thank you.
Joining us, Hassan Gondal from Pakistan. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
About the political system of the current scenario, the current world, what do you think about what is the political system actually is?
Well, political system, from my personal opinion as a citizen who is not involved in any kind of political party or not, in the policy directly, the political system is something different. It's like, different planets, usual people and the political system, because what we see in the world now, in particular in my country, these are like two different dimensions where people live. Citizens, usual citizens, and politicians who sometimes adopt such laws that it seems to usual people that they live in a different dimension of reality.
Jason, would you like to add something into it about the political system? And even I have another question for you, that the political system has been introduced in the world, what we read it, what we know, that to give the right to the people that who are being citizens of their country. So can you please shed some light about the political system, and is it a reality that the today's political system gives the right to the human rights to their citizens as well?
It's an interesting question, and I share Konstantin's thoughts on that, actually, in his opinion, that policies that are carried out, it's as if they live in a different world. And so we see something being carried out that's totally different than what people want. Yeah, that's really as much as I can say to that part.
Okay.
Sir, can you please elaborate the different dimensions of the political system in the current scenario?
Well, in my opinion, if you look at the current scenario, the current situation of the world, we can categorize political system into various dimensions, various aspects, categories. And to start off, I would say these are countries where we see democracy as a political system, where we see, and some other countries where we see dictatorship, authoritarianism, and sort of like dictatorship, we see monarchies like Saudi Arabia and the rest of them. And if we look, the rival of Saudi Arabia, Iran, they're sort of theocracy. If we go to China, Russia, they're sort of semi-structured democracy, sort of, if you like to say it, hybrid democracy, a bit of communist authoritarianism, and elections are there as well. So this is the overall structure. But there's a grand structure of political system that we call international organizations. These are very important political players which play very crucial role in our current grand political structure because if we divide political structure into different categories like democracy, dictatorship, presidential system, parliamentary system, unitary system, federal system, we can categorize it. So these are the various dimensions. And if you allow me to say this, political system, it brings certain values. If you are living in a democracy, there would be freedom of expression. Your basic rights would be protected, like freedom to form any union, political party, to do business, whatsoever, you name it. But if you look at dictatorship, they are afraid of, I'm recalling Why Nations Fail. They, I would like to quote that term, they are in fear of creative destruction. They are anti-technology, anti-progress, even anti-life. Anti-life means anti-aesthetics. They don't like people getting amused. If you look at Saudi Arabia before MBS, that's very different kingdom. So that's my opinion on different dimensions of political system.
So, if we are talking about the political system, that the political system of the today world, we know that Constantine is also from the Ukraine. Ukraine is also suffering from the war as well. So, what do you think about the political system of the current scenario is leading us to the war or to the peace? Constantine, from your side.
From my point of view, it is leading to the war only because, politicians, when everything is calm, when everything is safe, when everything is transparent in the country, there is no way they can influence people. There is no way they can manipulate people. There is no way they can justify stupid laws they adopt and things that they do, as we say in the country, under the carpet. So, I mean, like hiding truth from people. When the political election starts, either presidential or the parliamentary, they always divide people into right, wrong, good and bad, allies and enemies, and that's very sad because it is happening not only in my country; it is actually happening all over the world because the rule, which was thousands of years ago during the Roman Empire, people used to say that the true essence of the policy is to divide and rule. The more politicians divide people into groups which are opposite to each other in opinion, in views, in whatever, the easier it is for them to manipulate people. And it is absolutely the same. I honestly have a lot of questions to every politician because what I see in the world, they do absolutely the same thing. They divide, conflict people with each other. That's why, again, answering to your question, whether it is leading to peace or war, it is totally leading to war.
Okay. Jason, many questions has been raised by what the Constantine has told right now. That the political system, basically today's world political system, is basically have the model of divide and rule. You're belonging from the USA. So what are you thinking? The democracy, the political system of the USA right now in the current situation, because the USA also been helping out the Ukraine as well against the fighting against Russia. So what are you thinking about political system of America in the two different decades from Trump to the Biden? What are you thinking? Where is the thing about the peoples? How they'll be influenced? There is that strategy of divide and rule. How can you see that whole scenario?
It's an interesting question. So first I'm going to start with what Constantine said, and interpret it in my own way, because what it really means is that why the question that should be asked is, why do we accept the illusion that there's an enemy, and why do we keep repeating that stupid mistake? Okay, you have this person that rose to power, okay, and then he presents you an enemy, but yesterday and 5 minutes ago that person wasn't your enemy. So what's changed other than the words that someone has said? What stops you from using critical thinking when all of us are neighbors to each other? All of us have children, and all of us want our children to grow up in a diverse world. And like that's a common point. And all of us want and try to teach our children to be respectful of other people's opinions and to talk it out, even when there's an opposing opinion, but let humaneness prevail in those conversations. I mean, that's literally what we teach our children. So why do we buy this image that someone's an enemy? Because that's what Constantine was saying. That's the tactic that's been used for thousands of years. Now, as far as my political leaders go and the policies and choices they've made, and given what we've discussed previously, it's an illusion. People have to understand that first and foremost, that the government that they believe in doesn't exist, and it hasn't existed. And that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're discussing this political thought, because when people realize, okay, I've bought this lie, then you can make things happen. You know, whether it's Biden's policy, Trump's policy, George Bush's policy, they all carry out the same tactics. They have to present you an enemy so that they can extract as much wealth from people around the world on your back. Like it's literally that simple. It's on your back. So long as you present a person an enemy, they're restricted in their choices. All they can think about is survive or flight. They can't even think about what they're really dealing with in their day-to-day life, because you've presented them with this idea that if they don't give attention to this enemy, then their whole world's going to end. And so as far as the direct policies that are going on, it's an illusion. It's a sham. We're watching billions of dollars being stolen from the American people. And it's a huge game. It's really a game. And as I've said earlier, most people don't know that we've been in conflict for the 32 years of my existence, you know, and longer. And I think people need to be aware of that first and foremost before we can talk about whether or not someone's to blame. And then secondly, people need to remember that they have a choice. What stops you from going to talk to your neighbor kindly and asking him the questions we're asking each other? Hey, man, what do you think about this? Is this normal to you? And then get together and go to those offices and let them know together, though, not just individually, so that they can see, like, holy crap, because sometimes they forget, you know, you get caught up in a game. Like when you go to work, you're doing construction. After some time of doing construction, your body gets used to doing it. It's the same thing for politicians. You know, when they go in there, they're hopeful, they think they're going to change things, and then it just becomes a day-to-day routine of acting. So I hope I was able to answer that for you.
Yep. Thank you very much. You are explaining very well and shed light on some essential points about the political system. Sir, please tell to our audience that what do you think about the today's political system is leading us to the war or peace?
In my opinion, I would say you cannot take a side. I can give you some points in favor of political system. For instance, number one, the establishment of international organizations such as UN, we see they provide for countries to resolve disputes through diplomatic means rather than resorting to wars. Number two point, in the favor of the political system leading to peace, I can say economic interdependence through global trade has reduced the incentives for countries to go to war with each other. So that's very important. Economic interdependence. And if I would say the third point, the spread of democracy and human rights. See, it gives you greater political stability and it reduces the likelihood of conflicts within countries. So these are the points which we can say in the favor of political system, which is leading towards peace. But, you know, there's another picture which we see that the political system, if we are living in Pakistan, so we see, and our neighbor, we have India. So it's very complicated here in our scenario. But let's forget this and let's see what we can do about political system leading to peace. So wars and conflicts still, you know, there are around the world, they are happening, political, economic, ideological difference, they are there. So, but the very important point is there's economic inequality between, you know, all the countries, the North, the global North, we say it's very rich, and global South, it's very poor. So this can lead towards more conflict. There's a resentment between, due to this inequality between the rich and the poor. So which is very, very important to notice. And the third point I would like to make, that is exploitation of natural resources. The West, it's extracting everything it can take from Middle East, from Saudi Arabia, whatever. So that's again very important because they have the means. Like in Pakistan, we say we have a lot of natural resources, but we cannot extract them without the West. So that's, we have to take balanced approach here. In social sciences, we cannot take a very categorical position, whether we are going towards peace or war. So that's my opinion on that.
You answer.
Let me add also just a little bit, just what Jason said. I'm totally supporting his opinion, but I also would like to add that today's system, either it is a democratic system or Republican system or some other type of civil, let's say, system, it's not working. Why it is not working? Because when we vote for a politician, we first of all and foremost vote for his promises he gives us. He is promising us a lot during the election months that he will enormously improve our life. But when he gets elected, seems like they forget the next day what they promised to us. And why the system is not working? Because we have no way of taking our voice back. For example, if the politician promised to improve our life within, let's say, a month or 2 months, let's say 2 months passed, nothing has changed. We need to take our voice back and fire that politician and elect another one who is going actually complete or fulfill his or her promise. Otherwise, they can keep promising whatever, and there is no responsibility for that. They can promise us golden mountains, but when, like I said already, they get elected, they forget the next day about what they promised. And they stay and they sit in their comfortable chairs in large offices, doing absolutely nothing till the next election. For the next, depends upon the country, years, and that's it. And our life is not changing. Their promises are not fulfilled. That's why any system in the world is not working. And here we come to a very interesting question, how to change that. We need to change as a society. We need demand from the politicians to fulfill their promises. Just like Jason said, if we want something, we somehow need to get together with our neighbors, our friends, and demand from the politicians responsibility. If you promised, be kind to fulfill it, not in 4 years when the next election comes and you want to be re-elected, but 2 months, for example, later, if nothing has changed, he has to be fired. That in that case, the system will probably start working. This is one thing. The second thing, we need to have transparency about the decisions that our politicians make, because we keep eating the fact that we are stupid to understand why we spend, or why actually the government, not us, why the government spent billions and trillions of dollars somewhere and we don't know where. And they keep telling us that this is some kind of a state secret that our enemies should not know about. So they're telling us literally that we are stupid to understand, but actually this is, just a reason not to tell where they waste money. And I sure 100% that in 99.9% cases, this money is just wasted. Thank you.
Jason, in last, I want to know from you that we are talking about the several dimensions which is mentioned by you and also mentioned by the Constantine as related to the political system, the political leaders, how we are trying to talk to the political leaders, their promises, and you also mentioned that this all been illusions created by the politicians. I literally want to know from you that the political system are living by the political leaders and the political leaders who are being able to lead the political system. The one thing it is who's played a very essential role in all that scenario, that is the citizens who choose, who give the votes. I'm talking about specifically about the democratic system, that who give to the votes as well to their leaders. Is it true that the political system or the political leaders are influenced by their citizens?
Well, that's yes. Firstly, I agree with the mechanisms that Constantine had mentioned, that people can ascertain power for themselves, right? And it starts with a simple question to your audience and anyone that ever watches this. And that is it normal for you that if you perform your job wrongly, are you still going to have a job tomorrow? Right? The answer is no. In normal life, you don't perform your job, you're not going to have it. So let's start with that. As far as whether or not the citizens influence political thought, political policy, or their politicians at large, the answer is yes. Take, for example, in the United States, there's 330 million people. And given, give or take, and taken into account that there may or may not be a certain manipulation of election votes, roughly only 100 million citizens turn out to vote. So where's that other 230 million people? Right? Why aren't they getting up and why aren't they taking time? So if your life is affected and you sit there and complain about the policy that a person does, then you should be making sure with a sense of urgency that you take the time to get out there and voice your opinion, that you meet with those that you care about and start like a grassroots conversation around these things. And then you go there and you make sure you set time aside to participate in that democratic function of any country you're in however way that they carry it out. Because what happens is people go, oh, nothing's going to change. And so they just go to work and then the next day they complain. Whereas if you really thought that it mattered to you, you would take action. Let me give a simple example. If your child is sick, you will take time out of everything you do to make sure you get your child help, or your grandma, or your aunt, or your uncle. Well, these policies that these politicians create are that important because they affect all those things, how you carry out day-to-day life, your interaction with other people. So if you start from that it's important, then yes, the people themselves can influence policy. But it has to be more than 100 million people. It can't be the same people, right? Like that's disproportionate. How can 100 million people influence 230 million people? That doesn't make sense. Which in turn, when you talk about my country, we influence all 8 billion people on this planet by our actions. Like that's not a joke. Other people's quality of lives are determined by American people's decisions, right? And in turn, in those other countries too, if they're in citizens of the world, respective to their own leaders, it's the same message. Get up and take action. And it doesn't mean violent. It means voice your opinion, intellectually voice it with reason in a calm manner, without emotion, and get them to understand that you're a human being. It's that simple.
I'm talking about the American politicians and American policies that who have been influenced the people's the entire world because of their power. So what do you think about the political system of any country, how they influence their peoples, or their peoples influence their leaders?
Well, in the constitution of every country, it says that people represent the real power. Is that working? Only before the elections, my opinion. Later, like I mentioned earlier, pretty much politicians do whatever they want and they have no responsibility for that. But if people get organized, if people get more, let's say, educated and get more interested of what is happening in the political life, they will be able to influence more. Because I'm, working all my life in the educational sector. So I'm an educator. And I observe that the level of education just for the last 2 decades is just getting lower and lower. People get more indifferent, people get more disinterested in what is happening in the political sphere. they consume news, and for the majority of those people, that's more than enough. So they believe what is happening. They believe the stories they keep listening and hearing from the TV. But when you ask people questions about like their opinion, whether they analyze the information, does it somehow coincide with reality, they are very passive in that. And that's playing for the politicians, because for them it is easier to manipulate, I'm sorry, stupid people, and to influence their decision, which well, if very often you listen to the messages that the politicians declare from TV. Sometimes it seems to me that they are, communicating not with, grown-ups, with people, with educated people, but as if they're communicating with kids, 6-year-old kids, I would say. So the messages they say are, like I said earlier, as if they come from the different planet. I think people need to wake up. People need to understand that actually without people, there is no society, there is no country, there are no politicians, because actually people are the most important and the most powerful part anywhere, because without people there is nothing. Like I said, there is no country, there is no society, there is nothing. People form that, and people need to understand that they are actually the power which push forward the development of the society, or again push the degradation of the society.
Okay.
So that depends upon people.
Hassan, in last, I want to know from you that what do you think about, what are your personal opinion that you have a deep command on the political system around the world? So I need your perspective, I need your opinion about the political system. That what do you think about the political system of any state, any country, or the political leaders are being influenced by their citizens, by their population?
Well, I would say yes, people are very important part of any political system. I mean, they can influence any political system through various means, such as elections. This is very, very important. Election is a process, where people directly influence the political system. They choose what they want, what they actually. So election is very important because they choose the leaders they want. So this is their direct participation. If they elect Trump, Trump would be leading the whole world. If they elect in terms of American elections, if they elect Biden, so that's a very different ballgame. And the second point is, beyond election, there's public opinion. They influence you. Like in Pakistan, we are having very high inflation here, and the public opinion is against the government of PDM. So public opinion is there, and this is the very reason they are against the PDM government. They are against the elections because of public opinion. And the third point is social movement. Because of the social movements, in Pakistan, there is no such thing as we call civil society, social movement. But if you see the Western political system, there is social movement. If you tax more, people would come out and they would protest. And again, social movement is part of civil society, which is very, very important. So civil society is against the means to influence political system. So that's my opinion on this.
Question I want to know from you, that if we are studying the international relation, we study the relations between the states as well. So my question is to you, which is related to the international relation and the political system and the diplomacy as well. So how can you explain it that the political system of the world, how can impact on the international relation between the states and their diplomacy?
Obviously, a very pertinent question. And I would say political system of any country, it is very important for diplomatic relations. The way the system is, the same would be their diplomatic relations. So this is very, very important. And let me quote a few examples. If we look at the West, they do politics of fundamental rights. But here in Pakistan and in Muslim countries, and I don't really agree with them, but there's a statement here, there's a phenomena here. We say human rights are not, you know, driven by us. We had no say when these rights were created, established. And if you look at democracy, so that's Western idea. So the way the political system is, the same would be, you would say, the relations between various countries. What is the fundamental conflict between Americans and Saudis? Why do we criticize Americans? Because they support Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and monarchy and whatever you like to call it. So this is the game. So this influence, but never forget economic benefit. At the same time, America puts Pakistan in religious extremism, list by the State Department and Saudi Arabia, but they waive through they give us impunity through a presidential waiver. So what is this? Because they need us. So there's a thing beyond political system that influence international relations, and I would say in international relations and uh, diplomatic relations, Machiavellian principle is there, realism is there, only interests matter, nothing else. No political system, nothing. But somehow it matters as well, like we discuss human rights, etc., etc.
So the time of our program is come to an end. The main purpose for this discussion is to talk about the political system of the world. As we know that how the political system are being influenced by the peoples or not, how the political system are influenced by the leaders or not, but the political system is an essential. Thank you very much, Jason, joining us. Thank you very much, Einstein, for joining me. And thank you very much, Hassan, joining us from Pakistan.
Thank you so much again for having me and listening my points. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you. You all spoke very well. And literally, thank you very much for your analysis about the related topic. You shed some light on the various aspects of the political system of the world. Thank you very much. And see you later.